means is someone was recruited, who was recruited, who was recruited, who was recruited. Y'all know how that goes. And that's the most important thing I've ever learned based off my own personal situation is taprooting, the power of taprooting. And, I think that it's important that you understand that, but you also, there's so many things when it comes to building a business that we don't discuss that are vital, right? Building business basics. And whenever I showed up to do my orientation, when Blake told me, when I told Blake what my goals were to make an extra $1,000 a month and not be paycheck to paycheck, he gave me some very simple instructions that they were so simple, I didn't think they were important. And I think that's what we need to discuss here today. He also, when we went up to Monroe to do my training appointments, we rode together and we got to know each other. We became friends. I didn't have any money, so he helped me with lunch. He paid for the gas. He did some of these little things that kept me around him, that kept me in the environment and got me results. And I think that that's something that we can all learn from. And I think that there's key points that some of us take for granted. Even today, I take for granted the importance of riding together to an appointment, or maybe spending time after the appointment or before the appointment, just answering questions and getting to know each other and learning, And I think those are the things that we need to discuss today if we're going to build a business this second half of 2023. So Blake, are you there? Are you ready, my friend?
Absolutely, man. I love what you said. I couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Well, listen, obviously you've built the biggest organization in Louisiana besides your dad. And by the time you're his age, it'll be 10 times the size, right? So you've obviously had some success and you've had a lot of ups and downs in the business. When it comes to business building basics, right? If we're new in the business, or if we want to get back to building a huge team, what are some things, some common, I guess I'm not going to say mistakes, but common things that people maybe take extremely serious, or they just kind of, sweep it under the rug because it's not their personality or it's not what they're used to? Do you have anything in mind that you think we all need to do a little bit better job of?
No, absolutely, man. The first thing, I appreciate you saying that. The first thing I always tell people is that you got to get somebody to run with. And I don't want to be redundant with that, but obviously when me and Mike do these Zooms together, like we've been doing for a while, it's so imperative that you find somebody that you can run with, right? It's so exciting, whenever you have a business partner, right? I want to start off with this quick story. It's crazy because I was thinking about Mike yesterday in a very, very nice emotional way, Mike. And how appreciative I am of Mike. Because here's why. It's crazy. A lot of y'all know John F. Kennedy Jr. I don't know if y'all know the story of John F. Kennedy Jr., but I was watching somewhat of a documentary and stuff on that, on how he passed away and how his plane crashed. If y'all don't know who John F. Kennedy Jr. is, and this is a very interesting story, and I promise you I'll make it quick. But John F. Kennedy Jr. was the son of JFK, one of the greatest presidents of all time, right? And obviously a lot of y'all know there was some quote unquote kind of curses in the family. Well, I was watching a documentary yesterday, and JF Kennedy Jr. and his wife and his sister-in-law passed away or died in a plane crash. The plane crashed into the ocean on his way to Martha's Vineyard, and he was flying the plane, excuse me. And what's crazy is that he was offered by one of his good buddies and by the person who trained him to fly planes, to fly to Martha's Vineyard with him together. Okay. And JFK Jr. declined that. JFK Jr. said, no, I want to fly this alone this time. And what ended up happening was that they passed away. And, obviously there was something wrong with the plane and a little bit something wrong. But the main thing is he messed up. JFK, that plane should have never crashed. They should have never died. And that they said the main reason is there was no co-pilot. Isn't that crazy? I want you to think about that, right? And what do I mean by that? If you're in this business without a co-pilot, it's going to be very tough for you to win. I don't want to use the word you're going to die in this business, because a lot of people, succeed and they help personal clients. But if you get a co-pilot to run with you and to grow with you, somebody you can talk to when you wake up in the morning, somebody you can lock arms with, it is a game changer. A lot of times you will fly your business to bigger and greater heights. Almost all the times you will with a co-pilot. I was thinking about that with Mike yesterday. I would never be to the level I am, not just without Mike helping me grow my business. Okay. Now there's things that intertwine in that, like Mike just talked about. What did we do? Like, I love seeing the winner's dinner last night. I love seeing people do that. That's what creates relationships. That's what creates growth. Obviously, I was thinking we need to do more than that. I need to do more things like that, right? With my organization, my base shop. Okay. I know we do a decent bit, but those are some things, Mike, when we're, driving to and from appointments together, or being on appointments together, then talking about those appointments afterwards. Those relationship building things, right? Those are things that really spark people's businesses, right? Those are things that jump, like crazy. Another thing is competition. I love that Jay put that up there for about 10 minutes earlier, right? But then I had, Lafayette and Brandon and Moses saying, well, hopefully somebody from Alexandria comes to the beach with us, because right now it doesn't look like it's going to be anybody besides Alexandria and Baton Rouge and Lafayette at the beach, right? So maybe Jay, but that's it, So anyways, but I know there's a lot of competition there. And so I think that's the first thing, Mike, and I have another question for you, but when we locked arms, there was a lot of things that we did together. That's what I really want to encourage you guys to, okay? There has to be a situation. It was not just me calling Mike. Mike called me, okay? I don't wake up and I call Mike every morning at 8 o'clock. There's mornings that he calls me at 8 o'clock or 7:45 or 8:15. And there's mornings that I wake up and call him at 7:45, 8 o'clock, or 8:15, okay? Or later, who knows, okay? But it is a give and a take with a business building. If you want to build a gigantic organization, that's what we're talking about. That's what Mike said. We're very blessed to have built the biggest organization together in the history of Louisiana, besides my dad. But at the same point in time, that was days of driving together, talking together, planning together, right? Being consistent together. Those were actually holding each other accountable. And I've seen that a lot right now. And I know it's the summer, right, guys? But if you don't have a big week set up, or if you're not having a great month, I don't think you should be going on a 3 or 4 or 5 day vacation. I don't think you should be taking the whole day off, missing trainings, missing things like that to go fishing or whatever. Now, you have the opportunity to do that. I just said I don't think you should be, because those are scenarios, those are decisions that will cause you to be average and ordinary. Right, Mike? We talk about that all the time. And then I have a question for you. What's the difference between people that are successful and people that are average and ordinary and people that are broke? Okay. The difference is the people that are successful just make a series of correct decisions and right decisions almost all the time, where the people that are broke make a series of bad decisions all the time. Okay. And the people that are average and ordinary, that make average and ordinary income, that are just a basic median, right? And you always see median incomes. Okay. These are the median income people. Okay. They make a good decision, then they'll make a bad decision. They'll work hard for a week. They'll take 3 or 4 or 5 days off. They'll work hard for 3 or 4 or 5 days. They'll take 2 or 3 days off. So therefore their business goes like this. And all that happens is they just end up being average and ordinary, right? And so that's what things that me and Mike did. So Mike, when we started working together, what are some things that you remember that we did, not only together, but with your teams that we were building, that you believe created the biggest explosion?
Wow, that was great, Blake. I think that before I answer that, I think that we cannot misunderstand the importance of a co-pilot, of a battle buddy, we call it. It sounds good, but we're all human. We all have to be held accountable. And I've said this all the time, you got to have people in your life that hold you accountable simply because they exist. And what I mean by that is, whenever I was not working as hard as I needed to work, Blake didn't call me and hammer me about not getting results I needed to get. He was in Lake Charles calling me at 9 o'clock on the way back to Baton Rouge from doing appointments all evening. Okay. That simply right there holds me accountable. My wife, working at a job at Regions, didn't want to be working there and then having to go pick, paying attention. If you're aware and you have big goals that are bigger than you, you're on the right track. Now you got to find somebody that's going to call you when you need it, or they're going to help you when you need it, or even you can call them when they need it. Like you go to the gym, if you need a spot, obviously that's important. It's the same concept, right? And I think that we got to understand the importance of that. Number one, to answer your question, Blake, I think that I tell people this all the time, okay? It took me 5 times to pass the life licensing exam, okay? It's not because I'm a dummy, all right? It's because I did not enjoy studying. You know what I enjoyed? I enjoyed going on appointments with Blake. I enjoyed talking about the business. I enjoyed getting my name called, and I had people around me that kind of were the same way, okay? Now, what I'm saying there is we got people off to a fast start, Blake, and we did that through your great positive attitude with work ethic behind it, but also recognizing people, right? It was an explosion created through recognizing people, okay? And then whenever that happened, whenever we gathered 4, 5, 6, 7 people were excited. We really didn't fully know what we were excited about. except the fact that we knew we had a chance to do something better than where we were. We all knew that. We just didn't know what magnitude, right? And I think that's special. I think that's the start of something great, right? Now, at the end of the day, people got to get trained. They got to get promoted. They got to get licensed. But how do you keep somebody around, Blake, 5 months, not making a penny, right? And how do you keep them around as one of the top producers? Well, for me, it's real simple. It's because of the relationships we were building, right? It's because I was getting my name called and I was around great people who had what I wanted. So what am I saying there, Blake? I'm basically saying if you're not getting people in the environment very quickly, if you're not getting them on appointments very quickly, if you're not developing a strong relationship where they believe in you and they believe in the business very quickly, you're going to lose them, man. Blake would have lost me in a heartbeat if he didn't start developing a relationship with me from the beginning, number one. And feel good about yourself, number two. And number three, getting results, right? And I think that's something that we all have to understand, Blake. And that's what y'all did a phenomenal job of. I'll never forget. Once we started going to Monroe to do these training appointments and start and build a little bit momentum, we went every week. Whenever you went out of town, you sent Matt and Josh up there to train me. You sent Brandon Wilkins and Josh up there to train our people, right? You did not skip a beat when it came to building the momentum because you know how important that is. And I think that's another thing, being able to duplicate yourself. Blake didn't go on every single appointment over in Monroe. He was out of town. He would send people rather than waiting until the following week. That is the urgency behind the very first explosion that you and I ever first had. So I hope that answers, man. But that's what I remember, and that's what I've always tried to duplicate, that and the tap rooting systems.
Yeah, and I think always telling yourself, always be willing to say yes. Like I know a lot of you guys have kids now. I know a lot of you guys have certain things that you're doing that are very important to you. And obviously so do I as well too. But I know the biggest growth in my business is that whenever I always was focused on saying yes, right? And sometimes I did that overly, right? I just wanted to help people so much. I wanted to go on as many appointments as I could. And sometimes I would overcommit, which I learned from. And that's why you got to work from a schedule and make sure you're very, very good at time management. But if you got something you can do or something you can close, right, get it done right now, right then and there, right? The ones that are on this thing, there's so many talented people on this group. Our two base shops, the Lafayette group, right? Us all working together, we are primed for a big explosion. I know it's going to happen. I was talking to Mike about that the other day. I was like, we go through these gigantic explosions really every year and a half to 2 years, okay? We did it about 2 years ago. Our business basically doubled. We promoted out a bunch of RVPs, and now we're primed to do the exact same thing, right? When that happens, it's going to be special to see what happens. I mean, imagine a Jay McKinney at an RVP making 100, 150, 200,000. Imagine when Dejanay, who's very close, she's at RVP making 150, 200,000. Like those things are about to happen. Darrell and Cuesta, right? That same thing is there. Mike's got, Camila and Daphne, that those are 3-4 RVP promotions like me and Mike have done every 2 or 3 years. Okay. That's why he's an NSD. I'm an SNSD, is that we've just done that. We've promoted 2 or 3. And what we always say is, I wonder who it's going to be, okay? Because we're going to work hard enough to promote people. But the question is who is it going to be? Who is going to take the reins and say, you know what, I'm going to run with you, right, Mike? Because we want to promote people. I know me and you talked about that the last few days, but we can't push people to RVP. We can push people to district. But, man, we can't push you to RVP because you got to want it. If you're not on the Zooms, if you're not consistent, if you're not talking to your teams, if you're not personally producing, okay, if you think that you're going to be a successful RVP, but you haven't learned yet to write 4,000 to 8,000 in personal premium every month, you're mistaken, right? Because you should always be training people, always getting referrals, always working your business, right, Mike? And you've always done that. That's why if you see the trends of the ones that go there, that make that's why we know Jay and Dejanay as the ones I was mentioning a second ago. I talked about this with Moses. That's why I know when they go RVP, they're going to make 100,000. Because they are such great personal producers and workers that it's Darrell the same way. When Darrell gets promoted to RVP, he's going to make probably 200 because he always writes about 10,000 in personal premium. Now he's building a team. Game's over, right? Games means that's going to happen like that, okay? And so that's what I learned. I was like, well, I can easily write 7,000 to 10,000 in personal premium. Let's say 5,000 to 10,000. But then I'm going to train people. I'm going to build people. And now we got a bunch of people around us learning to write business, learning to train others, learning to get referrals. And then this business just gets easy, okay? All the things that I just said right now, if y'all are thinking, you're like, man, that sounds fun. That sounds easy. It is. but the part prior to that, the work prior to that is not as much fun, is not as easy to get to that point. Does that make sense? See, it's whenever you're building your business, my dad says this all the time, okay? When you're building your business from 0 to 20,000, okay? 0 to 20,000 in production, it's tough, right? It's tough. It is fun. You're building people, but it's tough because you don't have as many licensed agents, right, Mike? You don't have as many people attending Zooms. You don't have as much help. Does that make sense? Okay. It's like a basketball team with one good player and they don't have anybody around them. Okay. You're usually going to get beat by other people because you don't have much help. But when you start getting help, like I was really good in this business, but guess what made me even better? When I found Mike, when I found Brandon Wilkins, when I found Lee Brown, when I found Kevin Kennerson, okay? That's what made this business start to get very, very easy and very fun. And they're like, man, Blake's unbelievable. Yeah, I'm pretty good. But my teammates around me that we had developed together made me look even better. So that 0 to 20 is a little tougher. But guys, once you start hitting 20, okay? Like I think about Darrell's business right now. I think about, some team. I know Mike's got, Daphne and Jay, like some of you guys that are at that $20,000 mark pretty easily. Well, that 20 to 40,000 in premium runs pretty smoothly. Okay. Like I was thinking, I'm looking at Dejanay, Darrell, right? Jay, when y'all get to 20, those are the faces I can see right now. Camila, when y'all, Alfonso's on here too. I see Alfonso doing the same thing. When you get to that 20,000, that 20, 30,000, like I think Alfonso did like 20 or 25 or something like that last month or 50. I'm trying to think of what it is. But anyways, but once it gets there, that's a pretty smooth business. You don't have to do a whole lot. You know why? You have to run it. You have to management. Now, should you do a lot? Absolutely. Okay. You should keep adding fuel to the fire. You should keep adding directs in there. You should keep helping your team build. But when you're running 20 to 40,000, either at RVP or below RVP, that sucker's running pretty smoothly. You know why? Because you got a bunch of people helping you, right? You got a bunch of people helping you. You got a bunch of people moving. You got a bunch of people fighting. You're on top of the leaders bulletin, man. And that's fun, but it does take a little work and effort to get there. And as we talked about yesterday in Lafayette, Mike, it's just a business building process. Lawyers, doctors, they don't come in here thinking they're going to make millions of dollars year one. Lawyers don't make any money year one, year two, year three. It usually takes lawyers 5, 10, 15 years before they start making hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars a year. So it is a process. And it's the same thing here too, Mike. Because you were always, Mike, very, very good. Now, guys, if anybody has questions on here, please post it in the chat or raise your hand to ask a question, because this is great stuff. And I know me and Mike, and that was my fault for not mentioning that earlier. But if you have a question about what we're talking about, or if you have something you want to add, please raise your hand. We'll get y'all, because we want this to be interactive as well. But Mike, you were always focused on the process, right? You were always understanding that this might take, even when you were in Afghanistan, you would write me letters, right? Even before Afghanistan, you knew, I'm a build this business part-time. I'm gonna go to Afghanistan. I'm gonna have a business. When I get back, I'm going full-time. This thing's going to the next level, right? So you were always understanding of the process. Can you talk about your mindset on the process of building this business?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up.
I got it. I'll try to whoever that is. Somebody's just there we go.
It's very important that we go over that and understand, what that was. Okay. So first off, I was afraid to death. Okay. And that's okay to admit that, but not afraid to where you don't do anything, where you move into action. Right. Okay. So understanding it's okay to be afraid, use that fear to get your butt up and go to work. Right. Be afraid to sit down too long. Right. So that's number one. And number two, I understood that as long as I put in the work, you were going to help me. So if I know where I'm going, and I'm afraid of the outcome if I don't get there. And I know a lot of people on this Zoom are like that. I know Dejanay's one of them. She knows where she's going. She sees where she's going. And now it's flat out, let's just go to work. Now, I think that that's one thing that we did. I was not the best. I was a little bit psychotic, but it didn't matter to me what day of the week. It didn't matter what time. I was going to get the results I needed to get, because again, I had just been deployed for a year. That was my mindset, number one. But number two, this is, and let's just pretend that you and me were going to do this over, because I think this will help somebody. I had dinner last night, and I've got 5 people, in my opinion. You got Jay, Camila, Daphne, Seth, DJ, and now Cole's back in the game, and we got several others. But that's been the biggest producers that I've worked with. We got some strong new talent, and I'm not discounting that, but let's just say one of those 6 said, you know what, I'm going to RVP. It's done. And they write me a letter like I did you and said, Mike, that's a done. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. I just got to do the work. Okay. We got that decision made. And that's what I did with you. So I would call Blake, I would call you after the Zoom. I'd say, listen, what day are you coming? And you would tell me, I'll be there all day Monday, and I'll be there Tuesday until lunch. I'm not sitting around all afternoon today, okay? I am going to find appointments that Blake can get on. I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about what we did. I'm going to talk to as many people as I have to talk to fill up your schedule, okay? Now, can I do the appointments? I absolutely can. But am I going to learn more from doing the appointment with you? Of course I am, okay? Of course I am. So I'm going to go talk to people. I'm going to go see my pastor at the church. I'm going to go see Stella's teacher. I'm going to go see Mallory's friend at the gym. I'm going to go see whoever I have to see to get you 4 to 6 appointments where I'm guaranteeing results, okay? Now, some of us think that if we set an appointment, and I was like this in the beginning of my business, when I wasn't really actively building a business, I was just kind of moving a little bit, maybe going through the motions, right? Consistency, you can kind of compete, but I'm talking about an urgency where you're training and going for something, where there's no limit to how many appointments that you set. That's another level of obsession and commitment, right? So my point to that is, the reason I mentioned those people a second ago, when we talk about locking arms, there is no excuse for me not to have you on appointments with me if you're offering to help me go RVP and you're already where I want to be. There is no, the only thing that's going to keep that from happening is if I am physically unable to get out of my room to go find people for you to see. It's that simple, okay? And Camila's been doing that this entire week, okay? And that's what I'm talking about here, Blake. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill up your schedule with. Now, we're not sitting down, locking arms, talking about pending business all day and what a mutual fund is and what an annuity is. And we got wholesalers for that stuff, right? We're sitting down saying, okay, who did we recruit? How many appointments do they have? Who can we find through them? How many fast start planners are we doing while you're here? And what are we doing on training Monday night at 8 p.m.? That is all creating. That is all adding people to the team. That is building relationships. Are we going to do the other stuff? Yeah, we're going to do all the other stuff, but that's not stuff I'm going to use my upline for. Not my buddy, not my Michael Jordan, right? Now here's what's going to happen. Here's what happens from there. We do all these things, okay? Blake goes on home and goes back to his family and does what he needs to do because he can't stay with me the entire time. Well, I'm implementing what he taught me and I'm implementing what he did. And every play he calls, if he says there's a conference call, if he says there's a fast start school, hell, if he said there's a $20, $50 bonus on the line every recruit, people are going to be frustrated with me. I'm going to send it out so much. Why? Because the winners want that information, right? And Blake needs that support from me to push this down to our folks, right? That's what locking arms truly is, okay? Now, I think, Blake, that's one thing that we don't understand how valuable our uplines are or our downlines are who are strongly committed, because once you understand the value there and you understand how important time is, I think you just kind of figure it out through massive activity. And I know that's what you and I did. That's what Tyler and I did. That's what Derek and I did. And one other thing, and I'm gonna turn it back over to you. I know you got to go to a ball game shortly. Whenever I was working, after we promoted Derek and Tyler, we still had a ton of momentum, okay? So when I'm working with people in my base shop, my top priority is to get them in the field. That is my top priority, is to get them in the field quickly. Why? Because you'll lose them if you don't. I sent Derek Simpson as an RVP out with my directs. I sent Tyler out with my directs. You say, well, why does that matter? Well, some people would want to keep it in their base shop because they're not available. That's not how we're doing things. I don't care what it is. If I recruit Dejanay and I'm out of town all week, you can bet if she's ready to rock, I'm sending whoever can go. I don't care if I override it by 10% or 50. It doesn't really matter, because my main priority is getting her in the field and getting her some great results. And I think that we have to understand, if you're going to do that, Blake, yesterday I wrote a sale that was $600 a month. $600 a month. That deal is going to pay me like $7,000 or something. Well, I met this fella. He's not going to recruit on. Okay. He's like, makes like $700,000 a year. You know, he's not going to recruit on, but I met him through church and we developed a relationship. We're buddies. We hunt together. The next hour I went into Lowe's to buy a stove, and I prospected the manager named Charlotte, because I'm going to tell you something, Blake, understanding this business, that $7,000 commission is great. But Charlotte writing 4, 5, 6 sales is way, 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 way better. And I hope you understand why I told that story, because I understand $7,000 is a lot of money, but it's not going to continue to pay me over and over and over and over and over. Plus, it's not as fun. It's not as fun as getting in there and prospecting like we used to do and getting around people and all that. So Blake, that's what I got, man. I hate to get long-winded, but I get very excited and emotional thinking about how easy this thing can be if you love it.
Oh, absolutely. When you love it, when you understand what it can do for you, it's absolutely spectacular. That's what I was writing down what you said a second ago. It's just the activity and it's the want to, right? You know, it's worked for you. And I think a lot of you guys, right now, Blake, a lot of you guys know it's going to work. A lot of you guys will think it's going to work, but then when you see it work for other people, then you see it work for you. That belief happens. That's exactly what happened with Mike in the business. There just became a bigger and better belief. Now look at that, $600 a month, Mike. I don't know if you posted that yesterday. I would have got excited for you and asked you to borrow some money. But anyways, great job on that, man. That's incredible. But why? You build that. Some of you think, man, I'll never close a $600 a month. Absolutely you will. Absolutely you will. You just develop your skills. And when you learn from all of us, you're going to get bigger and better. You understand some of the best people in every industry were not good at one point in time, but they learned from people who were very good. They believed from the people that were very good, and then they got very good, right? So, Mike, yeah, I am going to run, but I do want to ask you this question because Dejanay had a great question, okay? What should her focus be right now with a newly licensed person who is double digiting, okay? Let's see, make sure. What should that focus be, on that, and anything specifically as far as calling champ lists, tracking quizzes, stuff like that? Like when you get somebody in, and you always do a great job of building new leaders, what should that specific focus be? I'm going to be listening. I just got to get in the car and head to the game. Go ahead.
Sounds great. And that's a phenomenal question. I think we all need to understand how important this is. Dejanay, okay, so for me, it's going to be messy, okay? It's going to be messy whenever you have that amount of people coming in. I don't know how many people can train, but what I'm going to do is, first off, understand that it's going to be messy, and that's why it's important to build a relationship, a strong relationship, and use every minute you can duplicating yourself. So here's why, for me, when it comes to tracking the licensing process and tracking the how much progress, they're testing and all of that, if we don't do that, we're going to lose people. Here's why. You got people that are going to be studying. They want to, whenever you show them, like if I said, Dejanay, I see you did an hour yesterday, incredible job. That is a step in the right direction, right? That's moving in the right direction. That shows that you care and you're paying attention to their success. Also, if they're not doing anything, Dejanay, listen, you're going to be a superstar in this business. I know you probably got hung up. Let's get back on track. Can you come into the office and knock out an hour, right? That does the same thing. But then we have a girl that gets a 50 on the practice test, Dejanay. She thinks she's done, okay? She thinks that a 50 is just so far away from passing. If I said, Dejanay, listen, I got a 49, so you beat me. Great job. Way to put in that work. Come up here to the office. Let me show you exactly what we need to do. Guys, this is building a business, okay? Anybody can write insurance. Let's think about this, Dejanay. When we're comparing like a State Farm or an Allstate to what it is that you and I do and what we do, State Farm, it's real simple. You go in there, you pass a test, okay? They pay for the test. You sit in an office from 9 to 5 and people call you and tell you they need insurance because they saw some silly little commercial. That don't take any mental toughness. That doesn't take any communication. That doesn't take any serious commitment. That's why they don't make serious money. In this business, you got to pay attention and care about folks. I got to get in, I got to call Whitney and say, hey, how's your family doing? Come on up to the office. I got to check on people. I got to care about people. And most importantly, I got to seriously want to duplicate myself. At State Farm, they don't want to duplicate themselves because, number one, if somebody's better than them, they're going to take their spot, right? They don't want to do that. And that's why you got to understand how important this is when it comes to that, Dejanay. So to me, whenever you get that explosion going, understand, we talked about this the other day in our training. People are going to quit tomorrow, but they're your next RVP. Now, what does that mean, right? We talk about that all the time. If I recruit you, Dejanay, you're my next RVP, we're building a relationship very, very quickly. We are getting licensed very, very quickly. We're going to recruit some people very, very quickly. Okay. And then you and I are going to work together. That way I'm not doing everything because you're not yet ready, right? You're not yet ready to do a presentation. You're not yet ready to do certain things. So guess what? Monday morning, we're going to work on the presentation. If you're not licensed, we're going to study. We're going to sit down, shut the door, and get you licensed, right? So I'm going to run all these appointments until I can get you there to help me. And when you can help me, now we're exploding. Now we're growing like crazy. Now on Monday night at 6 o'clock, I'm calling you and saying, Dejanay, I just closed a $100 ad for your team. And you say, you know what, Mike, I just closed a recruit for my team. So we just doubled up because we were intentional about what it is that we want to accomplish. Or we recruit a bunch of people, we don't do a damn thing but put it on Telegram, right? And then we say, hey, call me when you got some appointments. That's not this business, guys. I see it happen all the time. That's not going to do nothing. So Dejanay, I'm getting excited about this because if it's me, like I know Quentin and them got a ton of, David and Keisha, they got a ton of appointments last month. Well, right now we're going to sit down, we're going to qualify that market. We're going to have some pizza. We're going to have some coffee, whatever it is at the office. And we're going to start building relationships. And I saw Quentin doing that yesterday, right? So I think that we have to understand that time is very valuable, especially in the beginning when it comes to building these teams. And when I said people are going to quit tomorrow, Dejanay, let's listen. Quit's not an ugly word. It's just going to happen. It should make you feel real good about yourselves because you're not a quitter, but people are going to do it. If you know people are going to quit, you need to duplicate yourself. Guys, at the beginning of this Zoom, I said, Blake treated everybody like they were the next RVP. Josh, Brandon, Jason, Chris, Chase, Adam, all these boys. Every one of them going to be the next RVP, but I was the RVP. He treated them all like they was going to quit tomorrow too. That's how he went 6 deep. Right? So don't mistake how important that is, guys. When I say they're the next RVP, that means become their friend quickly. Recruit for them quickly. Get them licensed quickly. But when I say they're going to quit tomorrow, I'm telling you to replace them just in case they're not your next RVP. So I hope that helps you, Dejanay. And look, anytime you need to call me personally or anything, I'll be glad to do it. I'll be glad to help. But understanding if it's messy, that's a good thing. That's what we want. Okay. And going into the final few minutes of the training, I think that, does anybody have any questions? If you do, just raise your hand or unmute. But what I want to do right now, I want to highlight a few people. I know that, the Lafayette team is absolutely blowing and going, probably going to recruit several RVPs this next Fast Start School, if I had to guess, right? But I wanted to hit on, and these guys that are building teams, I want to talk about the communication side and why it's so very important, okay? I believe that if you're going to get a brand new recruit, or if your recruit gets a recruit, you cannot misunderstand how important the communication is. Why? Because whenever they leave that Zoom, whenever they leave that appointment, if they're excited, which they should be, what are they going to do? They're going to go talk to people, okay? They are going to go talk to people. Now, they're not going to go talk to wealthy people. They're not going to go talk to successful people in Primerica. Who are they going to go talk to? They're going to go talk to their derelict uncle or aunt that doesn't know anything about the business, and they're going to get something ugly, or they're going to go talk to Google. Okay. Am I right or wrong? They're not going to look us up on the New York Stock Exchange. They're not going to the Better Business Bureau. They're not going to those places. And I didn't go to those places either. You know where I went? I went to my dad and aunts and uncles, and I didn't want to hear anything negative that they were going to say because I knew this was my shot. Most people aren't going to think that way. So whenever we're talking about communicating with people, whenever I say that, what are we communicating about? I think that we need to be very, very clear on what it is that they want. And from that point forward, talk about that nonstop. Okay. And here's what I mean. Okay. If Jay McKinney comes to me and says, you know what? I want to be an RVP by the next Fast Start School. Now we're friends, okay? But let me back up. Let's say we first now get a recruit, and they say they want to be a district leader by the next Fast Start School, okay? And they want to be a district leader because they want to make an extra $1,000 a month. And the reason they want to make an extra $1,000 a month is because them kids, they're tired of borrowing money. They got a baby on the way, and they're like me, okay? I was 25, tired of borrowing money. So at that point, if that's what I want, Blake would be communicating with me like every day about that. Whenever I do something good, whenever I get a recruit or a sale, hey, you're this much closer, champ. You got 30 minutes to go study. Or whenever I blew it, not in a negative way, but like, Mike, look, I think you're going to be a superstar in this business. You're like me. You may be procrastinating a little bit. I think you're better than that. Let's get you back on track. Okay, letting me off the hook, but also challenging me. Okay, listen, we don't have people like that in our lives outside of Primerica. Don't misunderstand what these people don't have. Okay, outside of Primerica, I didn't have somebody pushing me. I didn't have somebody saying, Mike, you're going to be a superstar in this business. Now, Blake was kind of blowing smoke because I wasn't studying at all, but he still helped me out with the recognition side of it, right? And I think that it's important that we understand that. David, Keisha, are you on right now? I know he's traveling. Oh, there's Blake. But also when it comes to the communication side of it, the next thing, if you have any questions about this or have anything you want to add, anyone, the side of the massive activity, okay? When it comes to the massive activity, what is massive activity, okay? I think for me, and I know there's, like I said, I know there's a lot of people in Lafayette doing a ton of activity. I think that anything less than double-digit appointments in a week, if you're full-time, is not considered massive activity, okay? I think that if you want to compete and you want to make full-time money, there is no way to make that kind of money without doing double-digit appointments each week or more, okay? Now, where do we get these appointments, all right? From what I was talking about a second ago, yes, I'm going to get the appointments however I get the appointments. I'm not going to lie, right? If I'm in business if I'm staying in business till I build a business, I'm doing an appointment with everybody I could possibly do one with. Now, does that mean I'm not going prospecting after I do that appointment with my pastor? I'm not recruiting my pastor, but I better go find a recruit. Why? Because if I'm just doing personal appointments without building, what am I going to be doing next week? What am I going to be doing the week after? I'm going to be continuously writing, not building anything, right? And I told y'all this one time before, and this puts it into perspective. I wrote just real quick, I recruited an 18-year-old guy. He's going to be my next RVP, okay? He's going to be my next RVP. He's 18 years old. He had 2 people on his list. He's not from Alexandria. He was adopted, had a terrible childhood. He's got 2 people on his list. He's going to be my next RVP. Darrell's thinking, man, you're crazy. That boy ain't going to be your RVP, right? But hey, look, he's going to be my next RVP. We go see a coworker at Walgreens. The coworker leads me to her sister. The sister leads me to the pharmacist. Lisa does a $8,000 money market with me. A year later, does a $250,000 investment with me. Miss Lisa leads me to a dentist that invests $700,000 with me 4 years later. The 18-year-old kid never did nothing but one appointment. The dentist rolled over $700,000 and paid me 20, 30 grand for one appointment. Y'all see everything that just took place. Right after that appointment, Darrell, I went and did a fast start planner across the street in Mansura, Louisiana for Cole Denny, a single mom who wanted to do the business. Now think about what all I just said. It started with an 18-year-old. We would keep going, and then it leads back to doing a fast start planner who did a few appointments right after making a $25,000 or $30,000 commission. That's how important it is to get in front of these people. That's right, Dejanay, that's right. Wow. Now, the point behind it, though, is if you're not doing a lot of fast start planners weekly, what are you exactly driving through it? What are you doing? Okay. I'm not saying that in a negative way. If you don't have your upline doing fast start planners for you and your team, we're not growing as fast as we could be. Okay. And that's just the bottom line, right? As I told you before, spending the majority of your day creating new business, right? And that's what Art Williams used to always say. So last thing I'm going to say, guys, before we start wrapping up is just giving a couple of tips on getting out and about and talking to people, right? As I told you before, yesterday, I was out and I had to go to Lowe's to buy a stove for one of our houses. And the lady, I asked her if she could do my military discount. She went out of her way to help me. And I said, Charlotte, because she had a name tag on. Listen, another key tip, if you can call them by their name, people like that, okay? If you can remember, and look, I'm bad about that. I have to be very intentional about that. It's not because it's not important. It's because I'm ADD as hell and I can't concentrate because I'm all over the place. And then I just, I got to bring myself back to life here. Back to reality when it comes to that thing. So make it intentional, right? But I said, Charlotte, listen, you seem like you really like people. How long have you worked here? And she said, about 6 weeks. I said, listen, do you keep your options open? She said, yes. I said, well, look, if you have a piece of paper, I'd like you to write down your phone number. I own a couple businesses in town. I'm not talking about you leaving Lowe's. I'm talking about you doing something in addition. Would you be interested in doing that? And we have an appointment on Monday, right? Now listen, we have to understand something, guys. Y'all know that was simple. Okay, that was easy. The simple things are easy to do, but they're also what? They're easy not to do, right? So don't mistake how important that is, okay? She could have said, no, I'm not interested. She could have said, sounds like a scam, which is silly because I didn't even say anything, but that's what sometimes people say, just, whatever. She didn't say any of that stuff. And even if she did, I'm still walking out of there with my stove, right? I'm already there. I'm already in there. Now, here's the deal. If we understand how important it is to get massive activity going and training new direct recruits because we want to build a business, you're not worried about any of that, right? You're just worried about how many people did I talk to that will give me an appointment. And that thought process is based off of what your goals are. Right? That's what we have to get to. For me, I want to be training 5 brand new directs, or at least 5 new people for my directs at all times. If I'm not doing that, there's not really any question about what I need to be doing. And one last tip of that, I remember last time Blake was in town, we went to a restaurant and I got the guy's name. Now, it wasn't the time we were in conversation. We were doing a lot of different things, but I got the guy's name at Sombreros. His name was Chris. I called back to the restaurant within an hour and I said, Chris, look, you just waited on us. You did a phenomenal job. It wasn't the right time, but I wanted to ask if you keep your options open, because I'd like to talk to you about something in addition to what you do right now. And he said, yeah, I do. We did an appointment. He showed up. He said he was going to do the business. He never came back. But here's my point. We got the results that we wanted to get, only he didn't do what he said he was going to do, right? That's not a loss. That's getting that, but you just got to do that a lot. We all know these different things that we have to do. It's just how intentional are we about our goals and the activity that we create. So guys, listen, I hope that helped you. I really appreciate. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. If nobody has any questions, then we're gonna get out of here. But does anybody have anything of me but before we shut it down? Anybody? No? Okay. Well, listen, I know, like I said, talk to your teammates about the Fast Start School. If you have not yet got your rooms booked, please get your rooms booked. Very, very important. I know you can go on there right now. I don't believe you have to pay a deposit. If it's me, I'm going to have a bit of a phone blitz today, or at least get with my crew and find out, okay, who needs a room? And I'm going to call and book those rooms. I'm going to make sure that I have that spot reserved, right? Please. Yeah, I know, Garth Brooks. I was looking at tickets yesterday. I decided to go to Vegas. So I'm going to go on and make that excuse to go to Vegas in April. So no, not kidding. We definitely are. So, but anyhow, thank y'all. I appreciate your time. Alexandria from my base, if you would, please stay on for just a few minutes. I have a couple of announcements.